I wanna be a producer with a hit show on Broadway. I wanna be a producer.
Hi everybody, Ken Davenport here. Welcome to the first ever Producer's Perspective video, where I'm going to answer a question that came into my blog recently. And this one was actually based on a blog I wrote a long time ago. We're going to throw up a link to it, about how producers get paid. And specifically, this person not only wanted to know how they got paid when they produced a show, but also how they paid other producers. Because as you may know, there are two producers on Broadway shows and off-Broadway shows. And the analogy I usually use is a corporate one. That there's the lead producer, who's kind of like the chairman of the board of a corporation. And then there are the above-the-title producers. And these people are like the board members. And the lead producer subcontracts out the financing to the show, asking these board members, hey, I'll give you a seat on my board if you raise a certain amount of money. And these people raise their hand and say, great, I'll raise that money, but what's in it for me? And that's where we get into this video. I'm going to explain the deals that the lead producer makes with these above-the-title producers on how they get compensated. Now, these are called 1-for-X deals. So often you may have heard the expression, oh, I'll give you a 1-for-2, or a 1-for-3, or a 1-for-4 deal. That would be the lead producer talking to one of those above-the-title producers. They'd say, here's, you're going to get this credit, you're going to get this many tickets to opening night, and I'm going to give you 1-for-4. But what the heck does 1-for-4 actually mean? Well, I'm going to break it down for you right now. So here's how it works. First of all, it's important to understand that before a show recoups its investment, those producers, they don't make any money. There's no percentage of profit going to them. Why, sure, there's some management fees, some royalties that are sometimes shared between the lead producer and the above the titles. The majority of the compensation for producers occurs after recoupment. So these 1-for deals are all post-recoupment, okay? Now, let's just break down what happens to money. We're going to use a hypothetical example here. We're going to imagine that the capitalization for the show is $1 million, which would be, frankly, about an off-Broadway show, not a Broadway show. But just for round number sake, we're going to say that the capitalization, or the original budget that the lead producer was raising, was $1 million. We're going to say that one of the above-the-title producers was investing or raising $100,000, or 10% of the million. Okay, they were responsible for 10% of the capital. And we're going to say that the lead producer offered one of these above-the-title producers a 1-for-4 deal. Okay, you also may see it written out like that. So now, what happens to the money? How does the 1-for-4 deal actually drill down to dollars and cents? Well, now remember, let's go post-recoupment. So the $1 million that was raised for the show has been paid back. Maybe it took 6 months, maybe it took a year, maybe it took 5 years, but all the investors got their money back. They had a big party. It's a very good day. Okay, after the fact, here's what happens. So when a show recoups its investment and money comes in, let's say in a 4-week period, we'll use round numbers again, in a 4-week period, this show makes $100,000 in profit, okay? $100,000 in profit. Post-recoupment, what happens is this $100,000 gets split in two. $50,000 goes to the producer, and $50,000 goes to the investors. Okay, all the investors in the show, they share in this $50,000. The producer of the show, the lead producer, gets $50,000. It's a lot of money, right? Except this is where that producer takes care of all of those board members. Any deals that they've made to compensate those quote-unquote board members or above-the-title producers comes out of this $50,000. Now, how do we calculate what amount of that $50,000 this person gets if they had a 1-for-4 deal? Well, it's similar to looking at how that $100,000 is a part of this $1 million capitalization, okay? This is the number that's going to help us calculate what that producer gets. The investors invested 10% of the capital, right? $100,000 is 10% of $1 million. 10%, that's what that producer brought in. That means of this $50,000, as an investor, that person is going to receive 10% of $50,000 or $5,000, right? $5,000 is 10% of $50,000. Notice, the mistake that's usually made here is that, oh, how much are the investors going to receive? Oh, they made 10%, they invested 10% of the million, they're going to get 10% of $100,000 in profit. Nope, the split happens first. Producers here, investors here, investors get 10% of the 50 or $5,000. But remember, this above the title producer had a special deal. A preferred rate of return, a kicker, a vig, if you want to use casino terms. That kicker was 1 for 4. And 1 for 4 actually means I, the lead producer, am going to give you $1 for every $4 that your investors receive. That's simple. Or 25%. $1 for every $4 or 25% of what your investors receive. In this case, the investors received $5,000, right? So if we're going to divide the 5,000 by 4, we're going to get $1,250. 25% of the $5,000. Get it? $1 for every 4. That $1,250 is going to be subtracted from the producer's side. So the producer's profit here is reduced by that $1,250. And that producer is then going to have to pay all of the board members, all those above the title producers, from this $50,000. Make sense? So if there was another one, he'd have to come in another $250, another $1,250, another $1,250, taking out $5,000 total. If there was 4, leaving the producer, I'm going to write up here now because I've run out of space, with only $45,000 left. Still a very nice profit if this was only a 4-week cycle. So that's how the 1-4X deals work. In this case, a 1 for 4. $1 for every X dollars that the investors receive. Hope that answers your question, reader, that sent this in to me. Hope that answers all of your questions, if any of you had the same question. And send me more. And if you like this video, subscribe, let me know. We'll do some more of them. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
I'm gonna be